Welcome to Make It Plain from Make Plain Jesus Ministries, featuring Pastor James Bryan, where we take biblical truths in everyday situations and break them down to be as plain as possible. So, stay tuned and enjoy the broadcast.
Welcome everybody to the next episode of Make It Plain. And so I'm your host, James Bryan, as the intro speaker told you already. But I want you to understand something, that these podcasts are wonderful opportunities for me to be able to share with you and just give you some insights on various topics. And that's the key. Various topics that impact your life. And I enjoy having the privilege of just sharing just different thoughts and even getting you to, I guess, put seeds in you to think about, well, how should I handle the various situations in life? And that's what this podcast is about. And it's really a chance to put seed in you and opportunities in you so you can kind of look at situations from a holistic viewpoint. And so today, there's another topic that I have that I just want to begin to share with you. And it's called, What About the Children? And so I want to share this topic of what about the children because as I think about 2020 and as you've heard so many times, phrases like unprecedented time or times like never before, or you fill in the blank. There's all these other types of descriptors that are used over and over again. I just want to say it's been a year, right? A year in which things have gone in ways that most people did not understand or anticipate. But yet, here we are. We're now in December. And so we want to make sure that during this time of, I guess, reflection and the opportunity to go back into 2021, and I shouldn't say back, but forward into 2021, that we begin to just think about the children. And the reason why I bring that up is as I've listened to countless news reports and countless conversations and read countless materials, oftentimes we focus on, well, what does that mean to the adults and folks that are 20 and above and so on and so forth, but not as much focus on the kids. And so also in my role as a pastor, I see kids that are around both in our congregation and those that are just in the community. And my heart goes out because a lot of them are struggling just because the restrictions have put a different dynamic and they're trying to get their way through all of this and make sure they still can learn. One of the things that I recently heard on one of our local broadcasts here in the Maryland area was talking about how a number of the kids, a large number, too many of them, are falling behind this year because of some people are great at learning online or distance learning, but some people are not. Some kids can sit long enough, some of them cannot. I've heard many stories or accounts. I have relatives that are teachers in different school systems and just some of the things that transpire. And so my heart breaks at times because it is a struggle. But I just want to talk about that for a minute and give just some key thoughts, because I'm not telling you that I'm an expert in it. My expertise comes from being a dad. My kids are grown, but at least I've been able to see some of that. My expertise comes from having many spiritual kids, and my expertise comes from, if you will, having nieces and nephews and countless other folks, but I'm not a expert. So these are just thoughts to you, something to think about that maybe might fuel some other ways of being able to deal with the situation that is at hand for the benefit of the children. And so let me just start talking to you about this concept, I guess, or focusing on this area, and that is just the energy of kids. Now, some of you are various ages when you hear this podcast. Some of you are still, late teens, early 20s. Some of you are a couple or 3 or 4 decades beyond that. But what I want you to think about for a minute and remember, kids have all this energy inside, especially the younger ones, and they have to have some means of letting that energy out. And I know sometimes it's annoying or challenging that they may be bouncing off the walls figuratively in the homes, but what they're really doing is trying to just burn that energy. And so the question becomes, well, if they're not at school, they're not running around the playground at school, they're not running between classes, even though I know the teachers probably want them to walk between classes. But even during all of those times, the question becomes, well, what do they do in place of that? Their energy isn't burned as much. What about all the physical back and forth that normally would happen through playing games with friends or even just having interactive conversations with others? What about all that may be missing? So I want you to think about it, and I just want to give you some thoughts there, general thoughts. And this is by no means a list of everything that could possibly be done, but these are things that may be of benefit if you haven't already done them. I've heard of a lot of folks in this area that have set up pods where they have some neighboring kids where they meet in maybe a garage or someplace where they're still able to distance themselves, but they spend time within one or two other families, and that grouping works together. Well, that's great because that gives interaction, it gives a little bit of playtime and things like that, and it gives them a chance to burn their energy. But what if you don't have that opportunity? Or what if you don't have that situation? So I just want to give you some thoughts there and just let you think about what you possibly can do to make that even better. First of all, you realize the energy has to be burned, right? So maybe what you do is think about it this way. If I gotta have my kids burn some energy, you begin to work in a schedule with them, and maybe that you say, after you do your schoolwork, this is what we'll do at this time. Maybe it's in the yard if you don't have a backyard. Maybe it's a room in the house that you're able to set up adventure time, or you're able to create some time where they're able to do things that requires them to move or to think and burn some energy. I know as kids as our kids were younger, we set up part of the room at times where we would have a small like adventure or playtime, and we would change it up from time to time. So when they were very small, we had this, technically it was a slide. It was really one of those blocks that you put together that were maybe about 2.5, 3 feet high, that they could slide down this little slide, but they loved it for a period of time while they were little. That burned some energy. And so they were still inside. We moved everything out of the way so that wasn't an issue. But we created something in a room, if you will, that they look forward to. But we also made sure that we said, nope, these other things have to get done first. And then we come together at this time and we spend whatever time period is just playing. You see, this requires the parent to get to the point, or parents to get to the point of, just being able to play with the kids, even as a parent, being able to interact with them and help them burn some energy and help them have that feeling of, okay, this is fun, something to look forward to, even if maybe they can't go outside as much as you would like them to. The other thing is, if you do have a yard, well, you take time to go outside every day in the yard, and then you're able to let them run a bit or jump a bit. If you have kids that maybe don't like to do those outdoor activities as much, just create something that makes it such that, again, it's an adventure and so on. So it's not like it's mandatory exercise, it's fun stuff. So they're able to move. And maybe you do things, well, I bet you can't run from that corner of the house to this corner in this amount of time. And so you're getting them to try to do something in a certain time period, but you're also getting them to exercise and burn some energy. Or you say, I bet you can't jump this high, and you put your hand up or some marker on the wall outside. And so you can't jump this high and touch this point 5 times in a row. And you continue to be creative from those perspectives. That allows them to burn energy. And so, yes, it takes more out of the parent because they have to do that. But it's a change of scenery. It's more interaction. And it's a chance for bonding to, continue to occur. And it also gets them away from in front of the screen, whether it is a computer, laptop, whether it is a larger screen with a desktop or a phone, whatever that is, it allows them to move and get exercise. And so this is something to think about during this time, because you need to make sure that the kids are physically getting what they need to grow properly. And that also stimulates their mind. And of course, they need to have that in order to do well in school. And so if you think about it from that perspective, then there's a focus on the kids and there's a little bit of structure, because now you're able to put time limits as to where things are. You can kind of work that out. But it also helps you as a parent, because what that does, you know that at a certain time you got to go and spend doing physical exertion or some type of exercise with your children that are fun, and they look forward to it. But until then, they have to get their work done. So it helps you structure or compartmentalize your day. So that's something from there, because kids are so important. The Bible talks about how important children are. And so we want to make sure that, for every family, that you have the opportunity to really focus and continue to make sure your child doesn't lose anything. Again, we are talking about what about the children. Let me ask you another part, or let me focus on another area that, I've thought about. And I said, you know what? Let me make sure that we talk about this. And because of everything that's in media, everything that people see and read, it's always about the fear of everything going bad. It's always the glass half empty. And that kind of view that everything's going to fall apart. And yes, these situations are pretty dire in some areas and tough all over. But in the midst of that, you've got to get to the point of having at least a positive attitude and outlook for the children, because children thrive when they have an environment that is, I would say, somewhat secure. Now, that definition can vary, but if they know that there's somebody that's there, they're thriving even more, because they feel the comfort of knowing that whether the house is, 1,000 square feet or 500 square feet or 10,000 square feet or wherever they are staying, at least if they have some section where they feel like there is some kind of comfort or a surety that its stability is going to be there, they thrive better. So if you think about it from that perspective, even though as a parent you may be concerned about many different things, but you got to think about it from the kids' lens, from their viewpoint. How do you keep them calm? Because that translates in how they learn and how they're able to sit and be able to grow. And so if you think about that, then you may look at, well, how often do I have the latest news on? Because what I'm going to see are things that you need, but it's always geared toward more of a alarmist perspective. And so that translates to you and your reaction, which translates to the child. And so you got to think about it from there to make sure that that's not something that will pull the child down. Additionally, if you think about, well, what are you listening to on the radio? If you're blasting something, whether you're saying, Alexa, play this, or hey, Google, play this, or whatever Siri, I want to hear, whatever you're using, especially during this holiday season, try to have uplifting things or things that, have a positive impact on the ears of a child. And I'm saying all this because over the past week or two, it's just been really heavy on me about children. And as I see them and how they're reacting and what they're concerned about, I'll give you some other insight. And that is, it's funny, children talk about a lot of things. And so even in, our ministry, kids will come in and they spill the beans about everything. And, as a pastor and all that, we don't really go and blab about all that's happening. But it's amazing how kids will talk about things. And you can hear or see where their concerns are. You can hear them mimicking exactly what they're hearing, their household saying, all these other things that go on. You hear and see that. So you got to understand that whatever is happening does have an impact on the child and their outlook on life. And so knowing all of that, we just have to make sure that we create an environment where they can feel nourished and growing. One, that they feel that somebody cares for them and that someone can actually encourage them even through all the other things that are happening. So how do you do that? One of the things that you can think about doing too is you can have a discussion depending on the age of the child. You make it age appropriate, but you do it such that you're able to say, yes, these are things that are going on, but here's what you do. Don't worry, and give them the reason why. I would strongly encourage you to use these moments as a time to teach them how to trust in the Lord, that they begin to understand that the Lord really does care. It's not just a feeling, but he's a person, and begin to explain that to them at their age level so that it starts getting deeper inside of them. And so these are times when you can give them that level of assurity and help them to understand. Secondly, you talk to them about wisdom, meaning that you say, well, these are things that are going on, but this is how we'll make sure that we're in good shape. We'll wash our hands. We will put on our mask, and you can make that fun and an adventure also. But you begin to talk about those things and instill that into them. If they're not really small, but maybe they're preteen or what have you, you've got to spend time to make sure you're getting into what they're thinking, because they may not express everything, but you have to find a way to begin to relate and begin to talk about and begin to have those conversations. I can't stress it enough. Children are so important. If we miss it throughout all of this for children now, then that impacts them later on when they become adults. And the way they view the world is based on what you're teaching them now. So it's important for us to take the time. Now, I can hear, if you will, figuratively, that many of you are saying, okay, James, look, I'm tired. I'm tired myself. I don't feel like doing all of this. And I get it, because there's a lot going on. There's many things to look at. But here's what I would tell you. Making an investment in your child is one of the best investments you can do, because your child is a representation of you. And if you don't put the time in now, you don't spend the time nurturing and building now, the outcome may not be all that it could be, meaning your child may not achieve everything that you believe they could achieve. Or in addition to that, you may find out that their understanding of the world is not complete because there are missing sections, and those are sections that, because we were tired at the time, we never put into them. You see what I mean? And so you got to make sure that you're able to spend that time, even though it is tiring, and we can all agree at that. But even so, it's worth it. And so when you think about it that way, and you think about, well, what does my day entail? You ask yourself, but what about the children? That's the most important thing there. And so these are just a couple of parts or a couple of areas of encouragement that I wanted to share with you just from my heart. You probably have some other ones, I'm sure. Some things that have worked for you during the past, I guess it's been about 9 months now, right? During the past 9 months. Maybe there's some things that did not work for you. Just let us know. Send us a note. Communicate with us. We would love to hear how it's working and any other insights that can kind of help you, that have helped you through this, that may also help some others. And I just wanted to just openly share this. And there's a few other points that I'm going to share somewhere down the line, but I want to make sure that these two were clear and simple, made plain so that you can understand it and maybe give you other insights. Free of charge, if you will. I'm joking, but to just use those thoughts and then build upon them that works for you. Customize them so that it helps your child. Again, investment in your child right now is so important so that they understand how to live life when things are going extremely well, and also when there are challenges that impact them. And they learn so much from those experiences. So if you will do all of that, I think it will turn out very well for you. We encourage you to continue to listen as we talk about other various topics going forward. Continue to just, send us a comment so that we can understand how this is impacting you. But I want you to stand firm, knowing that the Lord still loves you and that He is there for you. And then if you trust in Him, you start believing in Him, you'll see that He is working it out for your good. Until next time, I want you to have a great day, a purpose-driven day, one full of success. I'll talk to you later. Bye.